So today we're going to be covering some MLA format. So what is it? Basically, MLA just stands for the Modern Language Association, which is this big fancy club in the UK that tells us where to put commas, where to put spaces, what typeface to use, etc., and all of our documentation. And why do we have to follow it? Because that's what the humanities follows. That's what English, our class follows. So we just have to do it. Alrighty. So general format. We've got Times New Roman typeface font, 12-point font, double spaced evenly throughout the entire document, right? We want to make sure that there's no extra spaces in between paragraphs or anything. We have an MLA header at the top upper left hand corner of each assignment, which basically consists of your name, your professor's name. So you're going to want to put their title before their last name. So only on your essays will I ever go, it's professor, and I'll change it for you. But this is only because we want to make sure we're not accidentally offending anybody in the future, right? So whenever I teach MLA, I always make a joke and I say I'm kind of like saving you from the assholes of the future, because there are people out there who are just so eager to report or to dock you for anything. So we just want to make sure we're not offending people. So it'll be your name, Professor Garavito, right? The title of your class. So for our class, it's English 104. And then it's going to be the due date, which is going to be in the format of the UK. So we've got your first essay is going to be due March 6th. So the way they format in the UK is the number, so 6 space March space 2022. And then we've got 1 inch margins evenly on all sides. And MLA also includes in-text citations and a works cited page, which we will be covering. Alrighty, so this is an example of visually what you're supposed to be looking at. So you've got your last name in the upper right-hand corner, paginated, right? We've got the title centered here. We've got the MLA header on the left-hand side. This whole thing, we just call it the header. We only put it on the very first page. No need to put it anywhere else. So again, your name, professor's name, title of the class, assignment due date, and then we indent the beginning of each paragraph. So, formatting titles in MLA. Any books, films, albums, anthologies, which is basically a fancy word for a collection of shorter works, is going to all be italicized. So, any title that we derive from that is going to be italicized. We want to make sure that we're differentiating between the larger work and the smaller work. So, for short stories, essays, journal articles, songs, and poems, we're going to be placing quotation marks around the title instead. So, for example, the album When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go by Billie Eilish, that is an album. So, we're going to go ahead and italicize that. However, the song Zanny, for example, it's a smaller piece of the whole, that is going to be in quotation marks. So, we want to make sure to format the titles exactly as indicated here for essay one. So, the last member of the Bola tribe, this is a title of a chapter, right? It's just one chapter of a book that I selected for our reading. The book is called The Circus in Winter. So, the title of the book, we're going to go ahead and italicize it. In your introduction paragraphs, you can say, In Kathy Day's The Circus in Winter, her chapter, the last member of the Bola tribe, right? That's how you would do it. So we've got Circus in Winter. The Circus in Winter is in italics versus the title of the story, right? The title of the chapter is in quotation marks. Make sure it looks exactly as it looks here, except on your paper, it will be in Times New Roman 12-point font. So in-text citations are basically just a shortcut to the works cited page. It tells the readers where to find your quotes. So for example, whenever you probably transfer, you might be interested in one of your classmates' essays and be like, hey, you did a psychoanalytic reading of what? That's really cool. That was me, right? When I was getting my bachelor's. Well, then I went on to say, well, can I see your works cited list? What articles did you read? How did you come to that conclusion? I'm interested in maybe writing a paper like that. So then you look at the works cited and then you're able to read the exact thing that the author, whoever wrote the essay, read, so that way you can come up with your own assertions or maybe even come up with some sort of like counter argument towards it. So that's the whole purpose of a works cited page. So the in-text citations in and of themselves, they're just a shortcut to all of that. Okay, so let me kind of backtrack here. So, the in-text citation is a parenthetical citation that must be present after each piece of evidence that you provide in your essay. For any written work, we're going to provide the author's last name and page number. So, anytime we quote, and even if it's a paraphrase, right, we're still going to provide the in-text citation. We're just going to do day, space, page 7, or whatever page it lands on. And we must include an in-text citation at the end of each piece of evidence presented, including direct quotes and paraphrasing. So I'm going to go ahead and give you some examples of direct quotations versus paraphrasing. We've already covered this in a previous video, but direct quotations are basically quoting the text exactly as it is presented. Um, we must include quotation marks before and after the quote provided, right? You know how when people go, and I quote, right? That's like indicating, hey, I'm quoting word for word. If somebody said, hey, you said this or something and then quoted you and they misquoted you, that could be a big problem, right? So we want to make sure that quoting, we have direct verbiage in there. Um, the difference between that and paraphrasing is basically a paraphrase is a brief summary of what's happening in the work instead of the exact word for word. And it does not include quotation marks. So let me go ahead and go back here and we'll toggle back and forth between a couple of examples so you can kind of get the hang of the difference. So for example, if I was quoting this in my essay, I would say Hollenbach exclaims, comma, these rubes don't know Africa from Oregon. All you got to do is act like you're from the jungle, growl at the white folks, scare them a little, right? So that is a direct quote versus the paraphrase of that would be Hollenbach instructs Bascombe to behave as if he is from the jungle and act like a wild animal for his performances, right? That's my summation of the direct quote. Next example, Pearlie says to Bascombe, way I see it, nickel's a nickel, dollar's a dollar. I'd be a blue bug if that's what they wanted to see. Stupid fools. Paraphrase of that would be Pearlie describes to Bascombe how she is literate but eager to take the money and fool the audience, claiming that she would be a blue bug if that's what they wanted to see. Both have their benefits. The main difference, they all need to be cited, but the main difference is paraphrasing. Again, it's your own summary, and we do not have signal phrases versus direct quotations. We always have a signal phrase, the purple thing that's saying, hey, so and so said this, right? That's kind of a necessary thing before we put the quotes down. The difference mainly would be you could summarize a scene very nicely in a paraphrase. That would probably help you if you're trying to get like a larger picture. But if we are trying to analyze language, which might beef up your analysis, I would strongly recommend going with direct quotations. For example, this whole growl at the white folks, that has a lot of indication of implications, right? So we can say in a close reading, when Hollenbach says to growl, the definition of growl is this. It's very animalistic. He's likening, right, black people to animals. That's problematic, right? And then you can go ahead and critique that very racist comment and perspective, which I'm hoping you all will do. So there are different connotations to them. I just kind of wanted to show you how to use both. Alrighty, so now we're going to go ahead and look at the works cited page, which is basically an additional page added to the end of your essay, listing the sources that you used in your writing. It helps the readers find the original source information, what you quoted from. So kind of like what I was saying before, if you want to look at somebody's works cited list to, find where they got their sources, might be helpful. That's why we do it in academia. It's not just to give you extra work. Okay, and then finally, if we're missing a works cited page on a final draft, it's going to be minus 10% off of the overall score for this class, okay? That is a much less severe consequence than getting a 0 for a professor, not me, but I've seen professors who have reported students to student conduct for plagiarism because they forgot in-text citations, they forgot works cited lists, or they were just even missing a citation on their works cited list. All of that could be grounds for plagiarism. So that's why 10% off is a lot less severe than anything else. If you were to forget your works cited on your draft and it was required, I would just probably take off a point or something like that. Okay, so your works cited page, it must include the title, literally it says works cited, We've got hanging indents. It must be listed in alphabetical order, and we must have a page number. So if your essay is 5 pages, your works cited should be on page 6. And then it must be formatted in MLA format as well. So we need to have it Times New Roman, 12-point font, evenly double spaced. Especially no extra spaces between those citations. So here's an example of what that looks like. We've got the student's last name in the upper right hand corner with the page number, the final page number of the entire essay, right? The title, Works Cited. And then we've got each citation listed in alphabetical order from G to P. And there is a space in between each citation underneath, which is what we call a hanging indent, which is basically a reverse indent. So, you know how you indent the beginning of each paragraph? Here, for the works cited, you do not indent the first line, but you indent every subsequent line of that. Every space in between indicates to me, hey, this right here is part of this initial citation. This is my new citation. Okay. So that's all I've got for you regarding MLA. If you have any questions regarding this content, or if you want me to take a look at your stuff, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask. Make sure to look at that MLA format page that I created for you on Canvas, because it has an example of MLA format. It has like an easy guide and a PDF of this as well. So let me know if you have any questions.